Janet tell you?
I'm invisible.
You're invisible? Why are you invisible?
W-H-O-S-T.
Before anyone called it a hoax, before the Warrens arrived, before the world flooded into Green Street with cameras and crucifixes, an 11-year-old girl sat in a chair and spoke with the voice of a dead man, not an imitation, not a whisper, a deep, exhausted growl that sounded decades older than her body. The voice claimed a name, Bill Wilkins, and according to the records, Bill Wilkins had died inside that very house. What happened inside 284 Green Street became one of the most terrifying paranormal cases in modern history, because whatever was inside that home didn't just haunt the family, it spoke back. North London, 1977, Green Street looked painfully ordinary. Rows of aging brick council houses, narrow sidewalks, small kitchens glowing under weak yellow lights. Nothing about number 284 stood out. It was home to Peggy Hodgson and her 4 children, a struggling family trying to rebuild after divorce. Money was tight, stress was constant, but the house was supposed to be a fresh start. Instead, it became a prison. At first, the disturbances were small, soft knocking sounds inside the walls, furniture shifting slightly overnight, strange scratching noises after midnight. The children complained constantly. Peggy ignored it. Old houses make noise. That's what she told herself, until the knocking started answering back. August 31st, 1977. The Hodgson children were trying to sleep when their beds began to shake violently, not subtly, not like vibrations from traffic outside. The frames jerked against the floor hard enough to wake the entire room. The girls screamed for their mother. Peggy rushed upstairs, expecting another argument between siblings. Instead, she watched a heavy chest of drawers slide across the bedroom floor by itself, slowly, deliberately, as if someone unseen was dragging it toward the door. Peggy tried to pull it back. She couldn't move it. The family panicked, and the police were called immediately. Constable Carolyn Heaps arrived expecting vandalism or an intruder hiding inside the house. Then she saw a chair move across the kitchen floor on its own. No visible force, no wires, no explanation. Later, she signed an official statement confirming exactly what she witnessed. And that was the moment the haunting stopped being private. The sound spread through the house. Loud knocking echoed through the walls almost every night. Neighbors heard it too. 3 knocks, then silence, then scratching, then violent banging beneath the floors. Investigators searched the property for hidden pipes, loose brickwork, pranksters, anything that could explain the noise. They found nothing, and the disturbances kept escalating. Objects flew across rooms, marbles appeared from nowhere, Lego bricks rained down the stairs, doors opened by themselves. Sometimes entire rooms shook, but whatever this thing was, it seemed focused on one person, Janet Hodgson. At first, Janet looked terrified, exhausted, pale, barely sleeping, but over time, the phenomenon began revolving around her completely. Witnesses claimed they saw her thrown from bed. Others reported seeing her levitate. Photographs captured Janet, suspended in midair above her mattress. Skeptics later argued the images simply showed a child jumping on a bed, but the witnesses insisted otherwise, because the worst part wasn't what happened to Janet's body. It was what came out of her mouth. One night, Janet's voice changed. The high-pitched voice of an 11-year-old girl suddenly dropped into something rough, deep, unnatural. The voice identified itself as an old man named Bill Wilkins. Investigators asked questions. and the voice answered. It claimed it had died downstairs in a chair near the fireplace. Records later showed a man named Bill Wilkins had once lived in the house and reportedly died there from a brain hemorrhage. The recordings disturbed even experienced researchers. Because Janet sustained the voice for hours at a time, doctors examined her throat and admitted something deeply unusual was happening. Some believed it was paranormal. Others argued Janet had mastered an extreme form of ventriloquism, but even skeptics struggled to explain moments where the voice continued while Janet appeared barely able to move her lips. And then the case exploded into international news. Reporters crowded outside the house daily. Psychical researchers moved equipment into the living room, microphones, tape recorders, cameras. Everyone wanted proof. Some investigators believed the family completely. Others became convinced they were witnessing a sophisticated hoax. And both sides found evidence supporting their beliefs. Janet was occasionally caught bending spoons and apparently staging activity to skeptics that destroyed the entire case. But believers argued something stranger was happening. The family might have exaggerated certain events while genuine phenomena still occurred around them. And then Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived. From across the Atlantic came the Warrens. Ed, a self-taught demonologist, and Lorraine, a clairvoyant who claimed to see the malevolent rot clinging to the rafters. Their arrival signaled a shift from investigation to confrontation. They did not come looking for wires or hidden speakers. They came looking for the signature of the inhuman. To Lorraine, the house was not just a structure of brick and mortar, but a psychic battlefield where a manifestation of ancient origin was attempting to claim a foothold. She spoke of the inevitability of possession if the family spirit remained unguarded. Their presence polarized the local investigators. While the Society for Psychical Research sought cold data, the Warrens brought the language of the spiritual war, transforming the council house into a high-stakes sanctuary under siege. They sensed an encroaching shadow that went beyond the ghost of a lonely old man. For the Hodgsons, the Warrens were both a hope and a terrifying confirmation. Their arrival meant the world was finally watching, but it also meant that what lived in the walls was far more dangerous than anyone had dared to admit. The battle lines were drawn, and the entity was ready to answer. The atmosphere within the house had reached a state of critical instability. As the physical violence escalated, a desperate decision was made to force a spiritual eviction of the malevolent tenant. The air in the living room grew thick, a cold front that defied the summer heat, signaling the inevitability of a final confrontation. Holy water was drawn, and prayers were whispered like combat codes against an encroaching tide of darkness. They sought to reclaim the home as a sanctuary, but the entity met their faith with a cacophony of guttural defiance. Janet's body became the theater for this war. In the peak of the right, her frame contorted into positions that mocked the human skeletal structure, her voice a chorus of the damned that drowned out the liturgy. It was a battle of wills, the ancient authority of the church against a primal, nameless hunger that refused to be cast out. The attempt was not a clean victory. It was an exhaustion of forces. The entity did not vanish so much as it receded, leaving behind a family shattered by the realization that some doors, once opened, can never be fully closed.